Hello, my name is Dr. Eric Walsh. I'm the Director and the Health Officer for the City of Pasadena Public Health Department. We are one of only 3 cities in the state with its own health department. And I'm very glad to be joining you by video today. Sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I had another prior engagement, and so I'm there, but I'm here in spirit. Just wanted to speak to some of the issues and the topics that are going to be brought up today at this meeting. And really want to start with the fact that we are dealing with a time when African American young men are facing increased challenges. African American men are less likely to graduate from high school, far more likely to be incarcerated, far more likely to be murdered. And then if they survive all of that and get past 25 years of age without any of that, still far more likely to have serious disease and illness and live on average 7 to 8 years less than the average American. So there's something to be said about decreasing the health disparities and poor outcomes that African American young men have. Into that, and one of the things is a really good book by Michelle Alexander entitled The New Jim Crow. I was introduced to it by Brian Berry over at Flint Ridge Center. And it really does speak to the fact that we live in a society that has really allowed the criminalization of certain groups of people to work to actually take away many of their fundamental rights. And so one of the things that has to happen is that we have to change the trajectory of where our young men are going, because if we allow violence, drugs, gangs, unsafe sexual practices, unplanned pregnancies to continue to really root into our communities will not be the thriving communities we have been historically. One statistic that really shows that is that 70% of African American babies are born outside of wedlock. And what that basically means, of course, is that those children are much more likely to grow up with one parent over the other, much more likely to be raised in poverty. The young men are much more likely than the fathers of these children to be dealing with the legal system, if nothing else, through child support and battling over the child that way. And of course, the young ladies are much less likely to be supported as mothers and supported than the child in a family setting. So there's a lot of work to be done. Well, how do we fix some of this stuff? Well, first of all, I think being a part of a community is critical. Sir Michael Marmot, in his book, The Status Syndrome, speaks to the fact that there are certain things that help make people healthy. And one of them is being a part of a community and social participation. So great places to do that, of course, are places like faith-based institutions, churches, temples, mosques. Being a part of a spiritual or faith-based family is one thing that is important. And something that has changed in our communities is that we don't have the same level of engagement in those institutions that we used to have. So that's something we need to get back to if we're not there now. And of course, education is critical. So the Pasadena Unified School District, contrary to what a lot of people say, is actually a fine school district. It has everything every child in Pasadena needs, in my opinion, to become stellar students and to go on to do great things in life. So our young people need to take education seriously, as it really is, at the end of the day, to ticket out and to ticket up. And so we need to support education in a ferocious manner. We need to educate young people, especially around issues involved with drugs and violence, so that young people aren't caught in a cycle of drug and violence and really harmed and damaged the way that those things can do that. Some of the other things that we really need to look at, of course, are engagement of young people in other ways. The sports are still very important, but so is music, so is the arts, so is theater. Really making sure our kids aren't just being educated to a test. And that isn't just the school district's responsibility. That's something that we as a community need to do. And I know the library helps to do that. The Human Services Department of the city tries to do that as well. So those are things that we really need to support. But also, one of the things I want to highlight is something that Ricky Pickens works in over at Flint Ridge, and that is mentoring. And there are a lot of organizations in town that mentor. The police department has mentors. The fire department does mentoring through these networks of mentoring that exist in the city. Mentoring, the research shows, is proven to change the way that a life can turn out. It can mess with the statistics and make it so that a child who was, statistically going to wind up in one place actually winds up in a much better place. So mentoring is one of the things that we want to promote as a way to change health outcomes and to improve the quality of life for young people. It's a very serious but very real way that we can do that. And what I want to leave you with then is that one of the most important things that every young person needs to have is hope. They have to believe that there's a better life possible for them. They have to know that they're going to live long enough to enjoy such a life. And so I want to leave you with hope that this is still the land of opportunity, and that every young person's mind is brilliant and it has the capacity to do great things. And somebody just has to tell and teach and get young people to believe that despite recession, despite the problems, despite all of the setbacks, every child is special and has the ability to do great things. They've been designed to do that. The problem is if they don't believe in themselves, and then others don't believe in them either. And so I like to always tell every young person that I deal with every time I speak at any high school group that if I could do it, you could do it. I come out of the same situations and backgrounds that you do, and I want to empower you to have hope and to believe. Faith, hope, and love. Those three things are the three things that every young person needs to have. And if you have those three things, life can be a beautiful and blessed thing. Thank you for your time, and enjoy your time today at the meeting.